Introducing yourself.
How to answer for tell me about yourself.
It's tell me about yourself. Mostly interviewers ask this question at the beginning of the interview, and you can answer this question with perfection and confidence. It will impress the interviewer and draw their interest towards you. As the proverb says, first impression is the best impression. So in this video, I'll share some tips and points to be kept in mind while answering this easy looking but scary question. So let's get started. First of all, the question arises, what is the reason behind the interviewer asking this question even when he has your resume? The answer to it is he wants to check your presentation skills and how confident you are. Your introduction should be a combination of your academics, experience if any, and few personal things which may be related to your hobby or liking to make it interesting and interactive. Put a smile on your face and make eye contact while answering, as it will reflect your confidence and make the discussion more interactive. Try to make the introduction brief and unique. If the interviewer is interested to listen more, he can come up with more questions. As you know yourself better, try to prepare an introduction yourself. However, you can take reference from other sources. You can start with your name, where you are from, and what have you done so far in your academics, achievements, etc. If you have any experience, please mention the same. You can end this brief introduction by saying why you are here. Also try to add a small tagline about yourself, which will make the interviewer curious to know more about you. Most importantly, be yourself. People like to see positive and energetic people in their workspace. Tell them what you know, and what you don't, you will learn it. So all the best for your interview.
Introduction. There are many different ways to introduce yourself and other people in English. Introductions are of two types. 1. Formal introduction. 2. Informal or casual or friendly introduction. Formal introduction. When you meet a person for the first time in the situations such as a job interview, formal discussions etc. are known as formal introduction. Informal introduction. When you introduce yourself to a known person is called informal introduction. Introduction elements to use during introducing yourself. 1. Introducing. 2. Naming. 3. Coming from. 4. Native place, birthplace. 5. Studies, learning. Introduction elements to use during introducing yourself. 6. School name or college name. 7. Presently working, employed. 8. Experience, practicing, my skill. 9. Father's or mother's name, with working. 10. Brothers or sisters' name, siblings. Introduction elements to use during introducing yourself. 11. Sisters or brothers, working or studying. 12. Favorite things, color, place, movie, actor, actress. 13. Future aim. 14. Hobbies, interests, pastime. 15. Best friend. Formal introduction phrases. There are many different ways to introduce yourself and other people in English. Hello. My name is Sparkers. Nice to meet you. I'm Sparkers. Pleased to meet you. I'm Sparkers. It's a pleasure to see you. I'm Sparkers. Formal introduction phrases. There are many different ways to introduce yourself and other people in English. May I introduce myself? I'm Sparkers. How do you do? My name is Sparkers. Let me introduce myself. I'm Sparkers. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Sparkers. Informal introduction phrases. There are many different ways to introduce yourself and other people in English. Hi. I'm sparkers. Introducing others phrases. Sparkers, I'd like to introduce you to Mithal. Sparkers, please meet Mithal. Sparkers, I'd like you to meet Mithal. Sparkers, have you met Mithal? Sparkers, let me introduce you to Mithal. Sparkers, this is Mithal. Mithal, this is Sparkers. Use full responses when introducing yourself or other people. Nice to meet you. I'm pleased to meet you. It's a pleasure to meet you. Glad to meet you. How do you do?
Introducing yourself. Introduce yourself. Name. Question: What's your name? Introducing yourself. Introduce yourself. Name. Question: What's your name? Introduce yourself. Country. Where are you from? Where do you come from? Where were you born? Introduce yourself. Address. Question: Where do you live? What's your address? Introduce yourself. Family. Question: How many people are there in your family? Introduce yourself. Family. Question: Who do you live with? With whom do you live? Self-introduction. Birthday/phone number. Question: What is your date of birth? When is your birthday? What is your phone number? Introduce yourself. Education. Question: What do you study? What is your major? Introduce yourself. Jobs. Question: What do you do? What do you do for living? What's your job? What sort of work do you do? What line of work are you in? Introduce yourself, jobs. Question, what do you do? What do you do for living? What's your job? What sort of work do you do? What line of work are you in? Self-introduction, hobbies. Question, what's your hobby? What do you like? What do you like to do? What's your favorite? Self-introduction, marital status. Question, what is your marital status? Are you married? Introduce yourself, others.
Introducing yourself, example. Good morning. I am S. Ashok Kumar. I am coming from Andhra Pradesh. My native place is Coimbatore. I have completed MCA in CIT, first class with distinction. I have completed SSLC in Kadri Mills Higher Secondary School, Coimbatore, and Higher Secondary in same school. I am working as a project manager. I have 20 years experience in software field. My father's name is Mr. K. Hilvel. He is a teacher. My mother's name is Mrs. S. Chandra. She is a homemaker. I have one younger brother. His name is S. Arun Kumar. He is working as a teacher in government school. My favorite color is blue. My aim is to start a software company of my own. My hobbies are listening music, reading books, and watching cinemas. Thank you. Contractions. In speaking, contractions are often used in place of auxiliary verbs such as is, are, am, will, have, has, had, and would. Regular. I am Indian. He is Chinese. They are Italians. There is a man at the door. Where is the butter? What is he doing? Who is that? She is going to the beach. We are going to eat now. They are not ready yet. I will be back in a minute. There will be lots of food. I have seen that movie already. I had played that game before. Contracted. I'm Indian. He's Chinese. They're Italians. There's a man at the door. Where's the butter? What's he doing? Who's that? She's going to the beach. We're going to eat now. They're not ready yet. I'll be back in a minute. There'll be lots of food. I've seen that movie already. I'd played that game before. Tell me about yourself. Sample answer.
You're asked, okay, tell me about yourself. So what things should come first when you're talking to your interviewer? I will be talking about that right now. Number one, start with your name. When you're talking about name, say with pride, I am Shreya Govind. My name is Shreya Govind. But never say myself Shreya Govind. Myself Shreya, myself Chaitanya is not a correct statement. You should always use my name is Shreya Govind or I am Shreya Govind. Second, talk about your place, from which place you belong to. When you're talking about your place, put an adjective to that place. I belong to Bangalore or I am from Bangalore. When you're talking about Bangalore, you say, I am from Silicon City of India, that is Bangalore. I come from Silicon City of India, that is Bangalore. Or I come from Pink City of India, that is Jaipur. So use some adjective to that place which you come from. Don't say, I belong to Bangalore. Don't say like that. Say it with proud that I am coming from Silicon City of India, that is Bangalore. Third, highest qualification. Just talk about two highest qualification. If you are a graduate, talk about your senior secondary and your graduation degree. If you are a postgraduate, talk about your graduation and your post-graduation. Don't just talk about your all the qualification which you have achieved till date. When you're talking about your highest qualification, what are the things you should include? Name of the institution, percentage if you have scored very well. Third, the subject which you majored in. If you are engineering graduate, talk about that you have done your engineering in electrical engineering, computer engineering, like that. So talk about your subject you've majored in. Fourth, talk about your awards and achievement. Maybe you have received an award as a best student of the year. Then it can project to the employer that you were an outstanding student during your college. You were all-rounder, you were good in sports, you were good in academics. That will project to the employer. Then they may look at those things when you're talking about it. So talk about your awards and achievements which you received during your college. And also if you have done any diploma or further specialization in the subject which you were doing your graduation or engineering or MBA, talk about those specialization. For example, you were a computer engineering graduate. You have passed advanced Java course. Talk about that. I have done a certification in advanced Java. That may help employer to know about that, and if they are looking for Java person, they will hire you because they know that you are a Java professional and you have passed the certification course also. So talk about that during your highest qualification. Last thing, talk about your extracurricular activities which you were part of. For example, some coding event which you participated in the college, some basketball or cricket which you were excited about, because in corporates also we need people who are good in all areas: team management, teamwork, leader. So if you are good in sports, maybe you are a cricket captain in your college team, so that can throw an idea to the employer that you were a good leader, you are a good captain. So those aspects can be looked at when you're talking about your extracurricular activities. Next thing to talk about is your skills and experience. If you're a person with some experience, 1 to 2 years or 2 to 3 years, talk about the experience which you have gained during your work. Talk about the achievements with your experience when you are working. And when you're talking about skills, you are a Java programmer. Talk about those skills when you're talking about your skills and experience. It doesn't matter if you talk skills first or experience first. It can be used in any sequence. You can talk about skills first and then experience. It can be done anyway. Next thing to talk about is your strength. People might think that should we talk about strength? But it is not mandatory that we should always talk about your strength. If the interviewer is asking about your strengths, then you should talk about your strength. What are the strengths you should talk about? You should never talk about the strengths which your friends or family say, oh, you are very good in this game, you are very good in taking care of your family. No, talk about the strength which is relevant to your job, which you're applying. Talk about the strengths which should focus that you were a good leader, good team player. Talk about those aspects. Don't talk about the strengths, oh, I am very good in photography, I am very good football player. No, don't talk about those strengths. Those are extracurricular activities which you were good in. Talk about the strengths which are professional, which will add value to your career. So talk about the strengths which will be relevant to you. Weakness. We are not born perfect. No one is born perfect. Should we talk about weakness? If you are talking about your weakness, you are being honest to the interviewer. Interviewer will also feel that yes, that person is being honest to me. So talk about the weakness, but there is a trick. Don't talk about the weakness which will affect your job. Talk about the weakness which will not affect your job. For example, I get emotional. If I talk about this weakness, this will not affect my job. Yeah, be prepared with the answer if interviewers ask about how will you tackle when you are emotional. Be prepared with those answers also. Talk about the weakness which will help in your job. Don't talk about the weakness which will lower your experience, which will lower your self-esteem. So always talk about the weakness, but it should be always relevant and it should not hamper your work experience, or it should not hamper your job. Speak about your family. In an interview, people do ask about your family background. So always mention when you're talking about yourself, about your family background, who are there in your family. If you're talking about your family, talk about your parents first, then your sibling. If you're married, talk about your spouse. If your spouse is working, mention about that your spouse works somewhere, mention about that also. And if you have kids, mention about that also. So it's important to talk about your family when you are introducing yourself. If you're not mentioning, then also that question is asked at the end of the interview. Last thing is about your hobby, whether you should include or not. Hobby, generally freshers do include their hobby when they are talking about themselves in an interview, but it is not at all mandatory to talk about your hobby, because when you're presenting your resume, your hobby is mentioned in your resume, but it's not at all required or relevant to talk about your hobby. But if interviewer asks about your hobby, talk about some relevant hobby which will help you getting a job, which will be relevant to the job which you're applying for. So concentrate on those things. When you're going for any interview, prepare all those things first. Don't just be unprepared, because the correct flow of introducing yourself will give you more confidence and help you to answer questions in the interview later.
Here are some sample answers. Tell me about yourself. For fresher. Good morning. Thanks for giving me this golden opportunity to introduce myself before this panel. My name is Suma. I am from New Delhi. I have done my schooling from XYZ School, New Delhi, and graduation from XYZ College, New Delhi. When I was in engineering college, I had made up my mind to become a software tester. I love to be a software tester. I have done ISTQB certification. I'm good at SDLC and STLC. As a fresher, I don't have any work experience, but I'm very passionate to work for this company as a software tester. My goal is to build a successful career as a software tester, which can help my company and me personally. My strengths are my positive attitude, punctuality, interpersonal skills, and strong in management skills. My weakness is my emotional nature, which lands me in trouble sometimes. This is all about me. Thanks for giving me the wonderful chance.
10 tips to improve the way you speak English. Tip number 1. Observe the mouth movements of those who speak English well and try to imitate them. When you are watching television, observe the mouth movements of the speakers. Repeat what they are saying, while imitating the intonation and rhythm of their speech. 10 tips to improve the way you speak English. Tip number 2. Until you learn the correct intonation and rhythm of English, slow your speech down. If you speak too quickly, and with the wrong intonation and rhythm, native speakers will have a hard time understanding you. Don't worry about your listener getting impatient with your slow speech. It is more important that everything you say be understood. 10 tips to improve the way you speak English. Tip number 3. Listen to the music of English. Do not use the music of your native language when you speak English. Each language has its own way of singing. Tip number 4. Use the dictionary. Try and familiarize yourself with the phonetic symbols of your dictionary. Look up the correct pronunciation of words that are hard for you to say. 10 tips to improve the way you speak English. Tip number 5. Make a list of frequently used words that you find difficult to pronounce and ask someone who speaks the language well to pronounce them for you. Record these words, listen to them and practice saying them. Listen and read at the same time. 10 tips to improve the way you speak English. Tip number 6. Buy books on tape. Record yourself reading some sections of the book. Compare the sound of your English with that of the person reading the book on the tape. Tip number 7. Pronounce the ending of each word. Pay special attention to s and ed endings. This will help you strengthen the mouth muscles that you use when you speak English. 10 tips to improve the way you speak English. Tip number 8. Read aloud in English for 15 to 20 minutes every day. Research has shown it takes about 3 months of daily practice to develop strong mouth muscles for speaking a new language. Tip number 9. Record your own voice and listen for pronunciation mistakes. Many people hate to hear the sound of their voice and avoid listening to themselves speak. However, this is a very important exercise because doing it will help you become conscious of the mistakes you are making. 10 tips to improve the way you speak English. Tip number 10. Be patient. You can change the way you speak, but it won't happen overnight. People often expect instant results and give up too soon. You can change the way you sound if you are willing to put some effort into it.
Thank you.